Hey everyone, it's Richard with Team Guardian. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the new GCS code so that you can kind of get oriented, and I'm also going to show you the folders that we don't care about because they're not stuff that we write. So, number one, make sure that you've got React GCS installed and working, and make sure you've got, well, you should probably have the simulator and stuff running kind of like I went through in the previous video. Um, and then also make sure that you've got this project opened up in your IDE of choice. So I'm using PyCharm here, and I did this by file, open, and then I just navigated to the React GCS folder and then opened the entire folder. So it works the same way in VS Code or everything else too. So open up React GCS and then open up the GCS2 folder inside there. And let's talk about these directories a little bit. So node modules is just a bunch of libraries that were installed when we did npm install. None of this you need to worry about. So this is not code that we write. Now how about public? Public is where various things like images get placed for them to show up correctly. So in the future, we're going to have an images directory under public, but right now we don't need it. Right now you can see we have all the map tiles are there. So yeah, don't really need to worry too much about public unless you're dealing with images. What we do need to worry about a little bit is the source directory. So inside here, we've got a few different things going on. So first, we have the components. So a React component is just a, think of it as like a rectangle on the page that can have various things inside it. So there's a component that just creates this navigation bar here. There's a component for this map, and there's also a component called drone info bar, which is this region down here that has like various information coming into it. So we'll look at this in a bit more detail. Yep, a little later. And next folder we have is views. So I think it will change this to pages, but all you need to know is a view is a different page. So we have the home page and we have the dev page here. So if I just go up to the menu, we have dev page, and home. And we will probably have more in the future. So that being said, let's take a quick look at the dev page. So let me just make this code a bit bigger. It's like increasing my text size a little bit. I'm just going to set this to JSX so it should give us better code highlighting. Work. Me? Oh, good. Page is a React component itself, and it has different React components as part of the page too. So we're on the home page right now. So what do we have going on here? We have some React boilerplate code where we have this class being made, and then we have the state, and then we have this render method here. So if we were to just remove all of this, this is just React boilerplate stuff here. So this means like it's code that you just have to kind of accept is going to be there even if you don't know what it does. But we're going to learn what it does a little bit. So a React component is just a piece of a web page, or in this case, it's like pretty much the entire page. And the render method is used by React to return a bunch of HTML and some other things. So the render method creates what you see. Either, in this case, it creates the entire page that you see with the header, the map container, and the drone info bar, as I kind of outlined here. So header, map, info bar. So these three components are being created inside this one page here. And each of these components like has its own file under components here. So we have the drone info bar, we have the header, and we have the map. So we'll look at the info bar first because it's probably the most straightforward. So here's the drone info bar component that is part of the home page. So you can see we've got the same boilerplate, right, where we've got the class, we've got some state stuff happening, and then we have basically what looks like HTML in being returned from the render method. So as I kind of showed in one of the other videos, if you just add HTML inside your the render method of a component, it will just become part of the page and it will start showing up. So if I make an H1, so I've added to this drone info bar component, I've added some just straight HTML, and I've just saved this. And if I go over to the page again, and I scroll down a bit, you can see this shows up automatically because Node has reloaded it for you. So you can see it's pretty easy to like add stuff. So you can have like literally any HTML you want here. So we can do like a paragraph, like blah, blah, blah. I've saved it, and then reload. And there's that stuff I added. So really easy to get that all working. I'm just going to delete this stuff. Okay, so that's like sort of the basic idea, right? Is a page is a component. A page is called a view, and components get added to a page as well. And components can actually also be made from other components, and that's actually how the menu works, but we won't get into that. Now let's look through a little bit more stuff, and we'll kind of go back and show a bit more React stuff. Okay, yeah. So here we have app.js. So this looks a little crazy, but all it is doing here is creating the different pages and just setting all of that up so that you can go to /dev or whatever, and then it will show this page. So if we look here, each page is part of a route here, and so you're giving it a path, and then you're just creating a component in these routes here. So we're creating the entire dev page in the if you go to /dev, and if you go to /nothing, you're creating the home view or page or component. So that's really all we need to do here. So you don't need to be super concerned about app.js. All you would need to know is if you're adding a page for some reason, pretty much copy an entire route block and paste it in, and assuming you've got the other things set up right, like you've got a component for your new page, it should show up right away. So yeah, that's how that's done. The other thing, yeah, index CSS. So we have a couple of CSS files here. I have been changing things in app.css, so I think we're going to be using this one for any custom CSS work. Okay. Now let's do a little more React stuff. So go open up Drone Info Bar, and what we're going to do here is add a little bit of JSX. So what this is it will allow React to add or change things on the page dynamically from the information that is coming in from the drone. So down in the render method of Drone Info Bar, we're creating a paragraph, and then we have these like sections here. So we have the module ID label thing, and that's got like a number wrapped, that looks a little different. And so that's exactly what's happening here. So module ID, and then the numbers in this code tag. So what's happening here inside these curly brackets is this whole thing is called JSX, which is a special version of JavaScript that React uses to create things dynamically. So what we can do here is let's fill this out a little bit. So right now we have some empty JSX. So you could see when the page was running and had things coming to it, like the module type was not updating because it was empty. So let's do that. Let's fix this here. Oh, I see. Okay. So we can delete that, and then what we want to be doing is changing this. I'm just going to start the guidance system running again, so I've actually got information to look at. There we go. Oh, the server died again. Okay, so it should work fine now. Yeah, so we've got stuff coming in. Module type is unknown. Okay, that's a little interesting. I'm gonna bring up my console here and see. I think I print out stuff when it comes in. So yeah. Okay, so flying by here is the data that's coming in from the guidance system itself. So what we can do here is take a look at what these fields are called, and then we can add them to the page and like use them. So yeah, so actually right now the module ID is a bit of a misnomer. Yeah, here, because we're actually assigning altitude to it, and that's just because we're not actually sending over the mission information yet. We're just sending over like flight information. So let's kind of change this and get it so that it's actually showing the correct data. So coming in from the drone, we have this object with altitude, battery current, latitude, longitude, all kinds of stuff coming in here. So let's start actually using this. So let's update this to show our altitude properly. So first, in the drone info bar, up at the top, we subscribe to the flight data. And this just allows the data to come in from the GCS into the, or from guidance into the page. We have, yeah, so here we go, that's coming in. And what it's doing is it's setting this, this modules, or this React components state field called module ID to the altitude of the data that's coming in. So the data is coming in is this stuff. So here's the altitude, and the mission module ID is what we end up showing down in the info bar. So we're just assigning two variables to each other. And when you do this, you need to go through the set state method. If you don't, it won't update things live. So let's kind of fix all this. So we're going to rename this. We're going to call it drone altitude. So we'll just copy and paste this guy there and there. So, and then we'll change this label. So what do? We've got the altitude coming in from the drone. We're setting our state variable called drone altitude, which just is initialized to 0 when you start the page up. And then we are saying the state.drone altitude, so pulling that field out, and we're setting it kind of inside this HTML like code wrapper, which gives it the style. So if we go over to the page, nothing has changed except the label has changed to drone altitude. So that's exactly what we want. It's just like it makes more sense now. What else can we do? Let's do the speed. So let's kind of add a new field for that. Meters per second. So when you're coding stuff, use examples that are already there. And don't be afraid to copy and paste, because it makes things a lot easier. So we've added a drone speed field, and then we've got the code tag, which just has the number in it, and that's just for styling purposes. And then now we need to pull the data through correctly. So let's add a state variable called drone speed, and we'll add that to the state. Oops. And we'll start that off at 0 as well. So we're using the state variable here. We are creating it here, and we can update it here when the new data comes in. So drone speed is going to be JSON dot, let's see what's coming in. Giving us lots of errors. Cool, because it's like trying to update. I think this was called speed. We'll see. And we just need a comma there as well, I think. So let's see if it likes that. Okay, good. So stuff isn't updating anymore. That is because the mission is done. So we'll just start that up again. Type yes, so it'll start flying. And we'll start the server because that died. And it should, okay, yeah, here we've got our data coming over. So it's called speed. Yeah, perfect. So now, as you can see, we've got the new speed thing getting updated automatically, just like the altitude one is being updated. So this is like, overall, this is what the procedure looks like. We are just going to have different chunks of data. So we have the flight data, we have the mission data, which isn't set up yet. And what you do is you update your state variables when the data comes in from the GCS, and React automatically will update the stuff on the page to reflect those state variables whenever it detects that they change. So that's kind of how the whole system works. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should show. That's about it. But yeah, I mean, the main files you need to be concerned with are various JSX components. So the info bar, the map, for example, probably a lot of work will be done here. And the views, which are your pages. So those are pretty much the only stuff you need to be changing. Oh, and I guess potentially app.css. We're gonna have stuff there too, probably. But those are the files that you're gonna be working with, and you're gonna be adding new components and stuff as well, for sure. So the rest of it you don't really need to worry about. So really, it's pretty simple, right? You're building up a page or a component with a bunch of other components, and each component is like a bite-sized piece of code that has some state, some variables associated with it that can be updated from data coming in from the drone. And then each component has some HTML that can pull the state variables out to do stuff with them. And it automatically gets popped onto the page. I guess one thing that you should be aware of is how to import stuff. You do need to know, or you do need to be concerned with file path locations here when you're importing stuff. So React is gonna be like global like that, but if you're using flight data, for example, so this function here, that's actually defined in api.js here. So you can see that's one level back from the components directory, so that's why we do the /API, which is just api.js here. So you need to kind of think about the file path when you're importing stuff. That's the main thing. And yeah, actually, if we go to home.js, you can see we're using the header, the map, and the info bar components. So those are what are making up the page. So you can see when we import these guys, we have to go back up /components /header map, whatever. So it matches, we're home, we go back up into source, we go into components, and then we go into info bar, and then we have access to that now. Yeah, that's it for React.